SCP-4333 Containment Class Esoteric Secondary Class Tiamat. Tiamat SCPs is an item that poses an immediate threat to humanity but can be contained via open warfare or other veil-breaking operations. Disruption Class Amida. Risk Class Critical. Level 3 Confidential. Codenamed the Profligate. Special Containment Procedures. Foundation Financial Surveillance Network, MIDAS, is to remain on high-level alert status and maintain continual broad-scope observation of the global economy for signs of SCP-4333's activities, including but not limited to conspicuous acquisition of luxury goods by an individual with no discernible source of income, accounts of paper money or other forms of currency being used in extravagant and potentially anomalous displays of upper-class social events, various groups of interest experiencing sudden and unanticipated economic growth, or referencing an unknown financial benefactor in an intercepted communiques, changes in global economic landscape such as large corporations suddenly merging or undergoing unexpected hostile buyouts. In the event that an SCP-4333 iteration is confirmed, a Foundation strike force is to be immediately dispatched to bring SCP-4333 into custody or disrupt the integrity of its adopted persona in the event that apprehension proves impossible. No facility expected to contain SCP-4333 at any point in the future will be staffed with any individual known to currently display dissatisfaction with their present financial status in conjunction with an obedience and loyalty index score of less than 90. Personnel developing these traits are to be immediately transferred from any site capable of receiving, processing, or containing SCP-4333 for any amount of time. SCP-4333 is a humanoid entity of uncertain origin with potent anomalous properties and unknown, potentially malicious intentions. When observed by the naked eye or through a device not equipped with a Mimir-class thalamic anti-distortion filter, a filter used to bypass perceptual illusions generated by a number of low to mid-level anomalies. When viewed without the filter, SCP-4333 appears as one of approximately 30 struck out, 45 struck out, 80 currently known, possibly more, anomalously generated illusory guises, all of which are male, generally considered physically attractive by prevailing standards of the society in which the persona is used, and in the apparent age range of 35 to 45. SCP-4333's clothing invariably consists of formal wear, typically expensive suits of various styles, and a pair of sunglasses. When observed through a Mimir filter or any other medium or means capable of negating anomalous perception-altering fields, SCP-4333 consistently appears as a human corpse in advanced stage of both desiccation and decomposition, appearing to have been deceased no less than 18 months and kept in a dry environment when compared to similar non-anomalous corpses. With gold coins affixed over its eye sockets, an assortment of cut and polished gemstones filling its mouth, and a thin but complex golden crown, which features barbs that pierce the remains of the flesh in multiple places around the skull. SCP-4333's behavior is distinguished by its primary anomalous property, which allows it to spontaneously manifest currency. There appears to be no observable limit to the means through which SCP-4333 can exert this effect, nor does there appear to be any constraint upon the frequency with its use or the amount or denomination of currency manifested at any given time. Observed examples of this include repeatedly removing large bounds of stacked paper money from within an inside jacket pocket, despite there not being an adequate physical space within its clothing to contain the amount removed, remotely manipulating monetary databases to increase individuals' personal account balances regardless of any security systems used by the associated financial institution, causing briefcases filled with banknotes to appear within postal delivery systems, which then deliver to an intended recipient, manifesting a large number of loose notes in midair near the ceiling of a given room and allowing them to fall en masse upon those present, anomalously altering nearby decorative fountain to emit a spray of coins from its spouts rather than water, despite neither the spouts nor the fountain's pumps being mechanically capable of conveying any substance other than liquid, as well as a multitude of other methods, ranging from the comparatively mundane to the overtly conspicuous. SCP-4333 uses this ability to pursue an immoderate and cybernetic lifestyle, characterized by overt and enthusiastic consumption of luxury goods and services including jewelry, automobiles, watercraft, private jets, resort visits, gambling, fine dining, designer clothing, art, premium tobacco and alcohol products, and hosting lavish parties at various estates, as well as illicit indulgences such as unauthorized firearms and other weaponry, prostitution, and copious amounts of illegal drugs. As a result of SCP-4333's assumed identities, quickly establishes itself as a notable figure within the aristocracy wherever it resides, often posing as a wealthy venture capitalist or magnate with holdings in an esoteric or obscure industry. It will eventually infiltrate social clubs frequented by the economic and governmental elite, plying them with bribes in an attempt to influence them towards an as-of-yet unknown purpose. Its cover stories can be proven false with even cursory investigation, but are nonetheless rarely questioned due to its affluence and dynamic, gregarious personality. Official inquiries by the government and law enforcement agencies into SCP-4333's illegal activities or the source of its wealth are seldom resolved, as it will bribe any or all investigating officials with whatever amount of money is sufficient to discourage further scrutiny. In the event that this fails, SCP-4333 will simply alter its appearance and abandon the incriminated identity before it is able to be detained. Guises adopted by SCP-4333 have thus far been consistent until compromised, with associated birth certificates, passports, bank accounts, and other identifying documentation being prepared by SCP-4333 months, if not years, prior to the persona's use. False identities known to be used by SCP-4333 have been listed as citizens of a number of nations, including, but not limited to, the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, Germany, France, Nigeria, the People's Republic of China, India, Russia, Japan, Singapore, South Africa, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Iran, Peru, Brazil, and Chile, among others. Several of these personas have been observed to be used by SCP-4333 simultaneously, suggesting that SCP-4333 may be multiple distinct individuals or possess a decentralized consciousness, which enables it to manifest in multiple places simultaneously. Due to its reliably grandiose spending habits and availability of equipment capable of negating its perceptual camouflage, SCP-4333 has not proven difficult to track. However, it is aware of the Foundation's existence and intent to contain it, and has repeatedly used its inexhaustible financial resources in conjunction with prior planning to avoid capture and sabotage Foundation assets. SCP-4333 has applied various combinations of extensive bribery, body doubles, mercenary ambushes, assassins, obfuscating documentation, complex and frequently lethal traps, and even weaponized anomalous artifacts, corresponding to the types known to be produced and distributed by groups of interest such as the Chaos Insurgency, Are We Cool Yet?, Prometheus Labs, and Marshall, Carter, and Dark, to divert investigative efforts and incapacitate Foundation strike teams. The Foundation has, with the assistance of international government and law enforcement agencies, successfully captured SCP-4333 on 3 separate occasions, each of which resulted in a containment breach and the entity's subsequent escape. The first attempt ended in failure when the convoy transporting SCP-4333 to its prospective containment site was assaulted by a detachment of mercenaries equipped with anomalously enhanced armor and weaponry, and exhibiting techniques characteristic of Marshall, Carter, and Dark asset retrieval units, which disabled the convoy's escort and extracted SCP-4333 and escaped before reinforcements could arrive. The second concluded similarly, involving a raid by a Chaos Insurgency strike force upon the secondary containment site, where SCP-4333 was temporarily held for processing. A video transcript depicting the circumstances of the third and most recent breach follows below. Date: November 3rd, 2013. Location: Processing Cell 4, Site 188, a subterranean maximum security site used to contain humanoid anomalies which exhibit low to no physically destructive potential, yet pose a significant risk to the civilian populace or the Foundation informational security via subtle or indirect means. Context: SCP-4333 Intake Interview. Conducted by Level 3 researcher Walter Briggs. SCP-4333 is in the guise of Donovan Edgeworth, a prominent English socialite, and is manacled to the cell's interview table. Researcher Briggs is equipped with a Mimir visor. Site 188 security response force is doubled and on high alert in anticipation of an armed attempt to free SCP-4333. Researcher Briggs enters the cell and secures the door with his keycard, then sits in the chair opposite SCP-4333. Briggs silently consults SCP-4333's file and prepares a clipboard for several moments while SCP-4333 stares at him with an exaggerated frowning expression. SCP-4333 speaks first. "Clever. Very clever. Attempting to bore me into submission, are you? Well, I'll have you know that I have been bored by men 3 times as tedious as you, and I barely shed any tears at all. My tolerance for monotony borders on the legendary. Do your worst." Researcher Briggs briefly glances up from his notes. "You can relax, 4333. Nobody here but you and me, and I'm not likely to be impressed by your bravado. As far as your submission, well, you are chained to a table behind a locked blast door within a maximum security containment facility swarming with armed guards half a mile underground. So, your submission would have been appreciated several years ago, but at this juncture I would say it would be too little too late. Wouldn't you?" SCP-4333 narrows its eyes. "Your point is unassailable. My situation does indeed appear to be hopeless. In light of that, I suppose we ought to get to know each other? Or is this one of those things where you say, 'There'll be enough time for that, you reprehensible fiend,' and we sit here in resounding silence until one of us gets moldy? Which will be you, incidentally. I'm mold resistant." "Undoubtedly. We'll begin with this. What relationship do you have with the organizations known as Marshall, Carter, and Dark, the Chaos Insurgency, and Are We Cool Yet?" "You're sort of out of the loop, aren't you?" "What am I saying? Of course you are. You literally work in a hole in the earth. These organizations provide things called goods and services, many of which I like. They like money. So I will oftentimes give them money, and they will give me the things I like. It's called commerce. you bleeding nitwit. Don't you have files on these people or something? I know you've got one on me. I can see it right there. Does assaulting heavily defended Foundation assets and installations at the risk of life and limb for the sake of keeping you out of our custody count as commerce? Yes, actually. Well, sort of. Not only will I purchase the services of these people's fighting men to keep you all out of my hair, but I've earned a bit of sponsor's privilege with them. After all, I can't give them any more of my money if I'm behind bars, can I? It's mutually beneficial. This ties into our next issue. Can you share with us what exactly your plan was? With the multiple identities, infiltration of global aristocracy, obstruction of our investigations into our activities, and the flagrant use of anomalous abilities to stockpile anomalous artifacts from dangerous criminal organizations with which you freely associate and sponsor, what were your intentions? What was this all leading towards? Well, then, seeing as how you're very, very curious, and in all likelihood I'm going to be here for a very long time anyway, I might as well clue you in. In actuality, SCP-4333 leans forward in its chair slightly. There isn't any fucking plan, you ridiculous bespectacled cretin, and there never was. Good lord, they were absolutely right about you lot, you know? You think I pursue pointless luxuries, go to parties, rub elbows with upper-class idiots, live in mansions, purchase the most exquisite of whores, and dump ludicrous amounts of drugs into my body analog because I'm up to something? I'm having fun, you hilarious baboon. There I am, minding my own business as cool as you please, and then suddenly you come along and goose step all over my perfectly innocent sinning. You know, you could benefit from my resources just as much as the others do. But no, we've all got to be as obsessive and self-righteous as you are. Honestly, it's enough to give a man a cardiac episode. If I had a cardiac capable of being episodic, or was a man. Right. I'll put that down as denies all allegation of malicious intent. Yes, denies all absurd and libellous fabrications concocted by paranoid shadow government. Good, excellent synopsis. Couldn't agree more. In that case, how do you explain the dozens of documents we've recovered from your state that indicate citizenship of, recognition from, or fraternization with quite a few anomalous states? Some of these places are directly inimical to life on Earth, and others don't even appear to exist. Ha! Just because you don't know how to get there, obviously the place must not exist, because you lot are just the smartest ever. I could sit here for days on end describing the circumstances in which I've acquired those certifications. Each one is different. It depends. Samothrace? Lovely place, beautiful sunsets, clear warm air, women as saucy and spicy as the food, bit violent, people sort of angry about something all the time, but that's true pretty much anywhere. Did a favor for the Shah, bailed him out of a tight spot, and now we're chummy. Pretty straightforward, really. New Calmarus? Cagey lot. Not very fun, honestly, but could be a useful hidey hole at some point, considering how dreary it is. Not for you, though. I gave the Lord Protector something trivial I bought from a different world, thought it would be useful in their little war. Now he thinks I'm some kind of god. Sort of ironic. And we have one here for the Republic of Arnold Fitzwilliams? Ha 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 ha, yes. That brings back memories. Bit of a stuffy place, a bit obsessed with protocol and the like, but there's actually quite a bit of fun to be had once you crack that nut. Those people are surprisingly filthy once you talk them off their high horses. Our data indicates that Arnold Fitzwilliam is a delusional individual with ontokinetic properties. Sure, from where you're sitting, you have to sort of squint with your mind. It's hard to explain and not really within your purview. And here's an interesting one. Apparently you are somehow an honorary blood adjutant of the Davic Empire. That's highly suspect and probably a fabrication, considering the Deva don't exist in this timeline. SCP-4333 pinches the bridge of its nose and sighs. I'm going to end up repeating myself quite a lot if you insist upon the ad nauseum. From your perspective, the Deva do not exist. I do not care about your perspective, nor do I operate within it. I already know what you know about them, and yes, when they do come back, and they're going to, each and every one of you is genuinely, truly screwed. Which is why I've been going to their parties and showering their queens and princesses with otherworldly tributes and gifts for the past few hundred years. Because I don't want to be screwed along with the rest of you. Pause. Researcher Briggs consults his notes. At this juncture, would there be any point in me asking how you supposedly get to any of these places? Or for that matter, what was the source of your anomalous abilities is? Or your species, if that word even applies here? You strike me as the type that genuinely needs to stew for a while before he's willing to open up. SCP-4333 leans back in its chair. Well, I guess you've got me pegged, don't you? You know, you could have done one of your little Fomic scan things and figured out about 80% of that information. I've attempted to be honest, but it really seems to me that your only objective here is to waste as much of my time as possible. And I can't honestly say that I appreciate that very much. Time is money after all, and you're beginning to get quite expensive, Mr. Briggs. I never told you my name. The chamber's magnetic locks audibly disengage. Ah, right on cue. What? No. There's a fucking anomaly in this chamber. Re-engage the fucking maglock now. Can't nobody read schedules anymore? Or see fucking lights? Seems like your security around here is a bit more lackadaisical than you led me to believe. Haha. Well, anywho, this has been an absolute barrel of laughs, but I really ought to get moving. Things to see, people to do, you know how it gets. SCP-4333 stands, causing its manacle chain to shatter against its securing bracket. It continues to speak while tearing the reinforced restraining units from its arms. Researcher Briggs falls to his knees and begins to retch. Goodness, you're looking a bit under the weather. Before I go, I'll let you in on a little secret. You cannot shackle greed, Mr. Briggs. It's something of a constant. Wherever there's life, there is want. And what's so awful about that? In the end, it's just less pain to let yourself be happy. Researcher Briggs attempts to raise Site-188 security command on his radio, but is unable to speak, apparently choking. Wouldn't bother if I were you. Local communication networks would have been the first thing they cut. You know, I meant what I said earlier. Really, all you had to do was look the other way. Leave me to my affairs, and I'll leave you to yours. Truly, I could have made each and every one of you profanely rich. Briggs vomits profusely, then slips in the fluid, landing on his side. Blood is visible in the ejecta. Think of the technologies you could have developed with such wealth. Think about how much easier keeping these evils locked up could have been, and spare a thought for all the poor lives you could have saved. But no, rather than diplomacy or foresight or acting as proper ladies and gentlemen, you consistently chose another path. It's like this every time with you people. And I have to admit, it's gotten a little stale after all these years. Researcher Briggs continues to vomit. Intermixed with blood and bile is an increasing number of solid objects, determined during breach recovery to be an assortment of banknotes, coins, and gemstones. But look on the bright side. This time, you've hit the jackpot. A brief metallic tapping could be heard. SCP-4333 turns its head towards the door, sighs, and dismantles the last of the restraints on its arms. Yes, yes, I'm coming. Open the door, will you? The fellow's been incapacitated. The chamber hatch opens, revealing a Foundation security operative in full battle armor, holding a standard-issue MX-402 combat shotgun, face hidden by their tactical helmet. Notably, the armor ID's been obscured by red spray paint. We should get going, sir. Automatic lockdown circuits are about to cycle in 4 minutes, and ew, that doesn't look fun. Oh, it's Briggs. What a coincidence! Hey Briggs, maybe next time do the right thing instead of being an awful piece of shit, huh? Something to consider next time you're about to fuck over a guy, right? SCP-4333 wipes its jumpsuit idly and inspects the bruises on its wrists before altering its appearance and voice to be indistinguishable from those of Researcher Briggs. Now, Lieutenant, let's be good spirits, Mr. Briggs is quite beaten, and he knows it. No need to rub it in. From the floor, Briggs is unable to utter a sentence between retches. You won't get away with this. Get away with what? Freedom? Get away with what? Freedom? I'm getting away with it right now, you feculent little rodent. Once you're done down there, do tell your superiors that if they insist on pestering me, I'll have to pester right back. I've been very content up until now, but who knows, maybe I'll get into politics this time around. How much can a government or two really cost? But we'll hog pie that centipede when we catch it, But for now, I'll best be off. Until next time, auf Wiedersehen! SCP-4333 and Rogue Operative exit the cell. After extensive investigation of Site-188's records, it was found that SCP-4333 had bribed Site Security Captain Alfonso Marquez and each of his subordinates, the entirety of Site-188 security staff, a total of 89 employees, prior to its arrival. Captain Marquez has been routinely denied a motion to migrate his Foundation health insurance coverage to his niece, Tatiana Marquez, age 9, who was in need of an expensive and potentially life-saving medical treatment that Captain Marquez could not otherwise afford. The internal claims handler presiding over this case was Senior Researcher Walter Briggs. Armed with this knowledge, SCP-4333 paid for the treatment and was able to convince Captain Marquez and his division to defect as a show of defiance, promising them greater pay and increased benefits. It is not currently understood how SCP-4333 was able to acquire any of this information, and as a result, an internal investigation into the possibility of deeper administrative security breach is underway. SCP-4333 identity and whereabouts are currently unknown. If left to its own devices, it is estimated that SCP-4333 will be capable of catalyzing an RK-class new regime scenario in which SCP-4333 uses its anomalous abilities to purchase entire sectors of the global economy. It takes advantage of disposable identities and extensive resources to deliberately render its acquisitions insolvent, politically capitalizes upon resulting socioeconomic collapse through a combination of bribery and campaign platforms centered upon economic recovery, which it would directly cause, assumes a position of global authority following an international political restructuring, whether through economic pressure or military force. As a result, the development of strategies leading to SCP-4333's hindrance or recapture has been reclassified a Level 2 overriding priority, with a secondary focus on establishing diplomatic contact with SCP-4333 in the event that these countermeasures prove ineffective. Addendum 433301. On June 14, 2017, multinational telecommunications conglomerate AT&T Incorporated finalized its merger with mass media corporation Time Warner LLC, despite the United States its government filing an injunction to halt the merger, citing violations of antitrust legislation and projected harm to consumers as well as economic insecurity. stemming from such overt corporate consolidation. Foundation Automated Financial Surveillance Network, MIDAS, flagged this event as high risk, and operatives were dispatched to investigate the transaction, with all involved parties placed under observation. In the following months, it was discovered that multiple members of both AT&T and Time Warner's board of directors, as well as the U.S. District Judge Richard Leon, the presiding official who ruled in favor of AT&T against the United States Department of Justice, allowing the merger to proceed, were socially associated with one Gregory Albright, an independent venture capitalist known to be a significant shareholder of both companies. Previously captured surveillance footage of Albright was processed with Mimir filtration, revealing him to be an iteration of SCP-4333. Whether this is a coincidence or purposeful involvement by SCP-4333 is currently unconfirmed, pending further investigation. So definitely an interesting SCP to be sure. A powerful one, but more in a political or financial way, rather than a very dangerous anomaly. But then again, breaking out of reinforced shackles and making money and gemstones appear in someone's stomach, kind of a red flag and kind of dangerous. It reminds me of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., where there was a bad guy once who made diamonds appear in someone's lungs. So, yeah, powerful SCP, and I can definitely see why this one's classified as Tiamat, because the only way for the Foundation to contain it is to break the veil. So, who knows, maybe they'll successfully capture it with military action, or maybe they'll establish diplomatic contact. I do not know. But still an interesting read, and thank you for listening, and have a good rest of your day.